All right, well, welcome everybody. This is week 1 of Investigations. I'm really glad you guys are here. This is like one of the favorite things that I do. Yeah, I've got to be the main teacher at a church. It's really a cool thing, that piece of it, and I really enjoy that. But ever since I became a Christian at 15, the idea of that the Christian faith can kind of handle its toughest critics and its toughest questions has just intrigued me. And what started that for me in part was I was a pretty curious guy, but then after I became a Christian, I was blown away by the subjective parts of it. In other words, that Christianity worked. Like it worked. It brought a peace of mind that I didn't even know was possible. And so on the subjective, supernatural, sort of spiritual level, it was like, oh, like I kind of grown up around it. So the fact that when I became a Christian, that it sort of delivered on some of these promises that I thought were sort of like pie in the sky for other people, not for me, that blew me away. Like it was really like, it was just an incredible revelation to me. Then I became curious. I wanted to know, did Christianity work for me because it was true? Or was it only true for me because it worked? Do you understand what I'm saying? That I became kind of obsessed with that question a little bit, because some people approach this from the exact opposite side. They have no experience of the Christian faith. They have no experiential, subjective confirmation of its truth. They're just simply intellectually wondering about its truth claims. Does it have any evidence? Is there anything to back this up? Is there any proof? And they're approaching it purely from the intellectual part. Once convinced of that, then they will sometimes, and most often, experience the subjective confirmations of this in the deep places of the spirit. Does this make sense? So I don't know where you're at, but you may be relating to one side of that or the other, where you can say, I came into the Christian faith and I really didn't question it. I just didn't. I didn't have a lot of intellectual objections. I just kind of was basically convinced of his truth, and then it was about getting reconciled to God and all of the subjective, experiential sides of that. But then later in the game, you suddenly, hey, what about that crazy Bible problem? What about those Canaanites getting slaughtered? What about the Trinity that doesn't make sense? So and your intellectual questions came later. And then again, other people, James, who's gone to get what?
He went to go get the charger because he was unsuccessful.
Oh, that's not working. Okay, got it. James, who's our stenographer tonight, also one of our elders, he came into the Christian faith as an atheist. So for him, it was all intellectual at the beginning and then experiential. So we just really believe at AC3 that the Christian faith satisfies both the heart and the mind. So this is really near to my heart. I really enjoy this piece. There'll be a lot of question and answering kind of thing, but I don't want you to get the impression right up front that that's because I got all the answers. I just happen to have been curious about this maybe before you, and then just really dove into it. But as you're going to see, there's lots of people who are smarter and more well educated on some of the points of the sticking points that people have. By the way, that is why I've just displayed some of these books. As we're thinking about the questions, hey guys, come on in. Front row is all open. Yeah, all right. You guys, back of the bus, kind of small group. Yeah, definitely back of the bus, small group. Yeah, that's not what's not working for James. He went to go get his. It's a computer, so it needs a brick, like a power pack. So, So anyhow, some of these questions or these books are kind of on some of the big questions that people have when they come to the thorny intellectual roadblocks that they have to either come into the Christian faith or continue in the Christian faith in good conscience. So for example, on the right, Case for Christ by Strobel is a classic, and it kind of marshals all the evidence. How do we know Jesus existed? How do we know he claimed the things that Christians say he claimed? How do we know that he rose from the dead? That's a beautiful book that kind of collects all that evidence. Undeniable is a book, signed copy, by the way. Doug Axe is a biologist and kind of deals with the issue of whether we can detect design in nature or not, or whether nature is just a big accident. That's the premise of that book. So it deals with the science and faith questions that people have. Miracles, of course, deals with whether we have good evidence to believe that miracles even happen. And what's amazing is that is a part one of a two-part volume. You see how big that is? That's a 550-page tome. That's only part one of a two-part volume of basically just collected testimony about miracles, most of them from the last 100 years. So therefore, in other words, because from recent times, what Craig Keener did was basically say, who can I investigate about miracle claims? Because miracle reports are incredibly prolific, if you didn't know that. But then the question is, can we believe any of it, right? So that's on that subject, demon possession. People are interested in the supernatural. Is there such a thing as a supernatural realm? Are there spiritual beings? Do they interact with the physical world, with me? That's that question. Then this is a question about Jesus, whether he was just sort of a new age guru or what Christians claim of him. And the last book, that's what I wrote and came out. I self-published that. This was last year. And it deals with the problem of pain, problem of evil. But a specific part of it, like it was very, very, it became a very, very sort of, I don't know, thorn. It became a real interesting question for me, in part because of this class. We do this class like twice a year at least. And this would often come up. How can there be evil if there's a good God running the show? It's the basic problem of evil that people have had forever. But a specific subset of that problem that didn't seem to be able to be satisfied by the free will defense, and we'll talk about what that means, seemed to be natural evil. Like, so what about all the evil in nature? What about the carnivorism and, animals eating each other and blood and guts and gore going on for eons? That became a huge question for me. So that's what that book is mainly about, reconciling a benevolent God with a brutal earth. So that's me, and that's kind of how I come to be interested in this. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. So now let's go around the room and let's just have a little Reader's Digest, just a couple sentences on who you are and maybe how you come to be interested or here at the investigations class. Can we do that? Just so we all know each other's name. We're going to start with this handsome young man over here.
I'm Gates. I'm your son.
Oh, wow. That explains it. Okay.
Yeah, you've essentially raised me on this philosophy my whole life. So
Okay.
I'm here to investigate with an open mind, just like you taught me.
Okay, sweet.
I'm Zach. I've been to this class almost every time,
Nice.
and there's always something new in it.
Sweet. Glad you're here.
I'm Nolan. I also grew up in the church, and investigations is always fun. So see if there's something new like Zach.
Yep. Sounds good.
I'm Sean. I'm new. Just trying to get closer to God. So.
Love it. I'm glad you're here.
I'm Marlon. I was raised in the religions.
Which one? Can you tell us specifically? Because I know that might be interesting for people.
Early on, it was
Seventh-day Adventist, yeah.
And I did that for the first 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got really curious. So I started studying each and every religion. And so I read like the Quran. And at one point I had the most complete set of the 7 Dead Sea Scrolls translated. So I've studied all sorts of religions.
Mm-hmm.
I still bounce church to church.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the curiosity side of me.
Yeah. Cool.
I believe if it's written, it's true.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you're here. That's awesome.
I'm Dave, and I'm just fascinated by learning from other people's experiences and getting deeper into the Word, and you do a fantastic job of that. So that's why.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, Dave. That's awesome.
I'm Debbie. This is the second time around for me. I don't remember how long ago it was.
Mm-hmm.
I've been coming for this church about 17 years. I was raised Catholic. I'm new to really being a believer. I've only been believing for about 21 years, but really diving more.
Just recently.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. I'm glad you're here.
I'm Trila, and I've been going to this church for my entire life, basically. I guess I'm just.
No, really. It has been your entire life.
Wow.
Not even basically, but for real.
I guess I'm just here to see what investigations is all about and stuff.
Good. That's great. Glad you're here.
I'm Lee. I'm her dad. dragged her. I've been here a couple times. I love investigations and learning new angles, and I always like picking your brain.
Nice. Cool. We'll go to the guy behind the screen.
I'm Michael, raised Catholic, baptized as a Pentecostal, baptized as a Mormon now, baptized as a Christian.
Nice. Truly fulfills the name Anabaptist, which, by the way, that word Anna means again,
Yeah.
so nice.
But I like coming here because each semester has been informative for me. So
Yeah.
I get to learn more about the faith and also the word.
That's cool. Yeah, there's always another layer, right? Now I'm looking at you in the camera. If you're tuning in live, I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to, just type in the chat your name. And by the way, that is also how you can get a question in. So you get the question in, Mike will see that, and he will throw it into the class. Okay? And finally, last but not least.
My name is Dwayne. I've been attending here since 2008. Attended this class a few times, and I always appreciate the fact that every class is a little different.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. I just lost my connection to the screen. I want to show you guys just some ground rules for investigations. And I'm going to do that in just a second as I reestablish this connection. In the meantime, we're going to hear from your phone, no one. So.
Rick, is this live streamed or is
Yep, it's being live streamed right now. This dead space is being broadcast to the universe. Yeah. This is like, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to kind of turn around, crane your neck a little bit, and as this connects, it's going to happen any second now. There it is. This is just some ground rules for investigations, and it's not particularly complex, but we want to make sure that this is spelled out before we even start asking questions. Number one, there is no such thing as a dumb question, okay? This really matters because if you've been thinking it, someone else is thinking it. So you go, oh, this is too elementary. This is too kindergarten. It's like, nope, this is the place for it. Investigations. If you don't ask it here, where else are you going to ask it, right? So there's going to be no shame about whatever level of question that you've got, okay? So just ask it, and I bet you 4 or 5 people in the class are going, oh, I've wondered that same thing myself, okay? So no such thing as a dumb question. Number 2, we don't have all the answers. So yes, like I said, there's going to be some Q, some A, and I'm going to kind of present the Christian answers that are classically given for a lot of the classic questions that are asked. But that's not because I have all the answers. So I lean, first of all, on the revelation of the gospel of Jesus to know what it would say about a given question or thorny issue. So I'm relying on all of that. That's the foundation I'm standing on. You might have questions about the Bible, which is where I'm standing. You say, well, why would you stand there? That's a really great question. That's one of the things we dive into is why would we stand on the Bible as a true source? Why? Where can we ground its reliability? That sort of thing. But so there's going to be a place, maybe I'm just going to say, I don't know. I will also try to be really clear with you about the fact that there are some issues that you're going to raise where Christians, well-meaning, serious Christians, think differently. And then that gets us to think Christianly about a topic, and so that we don't know exactly what we're supposed to think, but rather how we're supposed to think about a topic. And then when we get that, then sometimes on these secondary or tertiary issues, you come to your own conclusions. And the Christian faith can handle the big tent a little bit. Third, we operate from the premise that God does not play his cards close to his vest. So there's a deep conviction that I've got that God wants to be revealed to you. So that when you're pursuing God, the Bible gives this promise. When we seek, we'll find. When we knock, the door's open. Jesus said that over and over. And then finally, discussion is allowed. So I'll start into something. You'll say, hey, what about this? And I'll start talking. It's like, wait a minute, you're not answering my question. But what about, and then somebody else, it's going to trigger a thought over here or over here. And I want you to feel free to stop the conversation and then let's have crosstalk. That's totally cool. Okay. So that actually is sometimes the best learning environments where we'll just all of a sudden start to vamp on each other's thinking, and a question will build on another question, and we'll try to just encourage all that. Okay, so discussion is allowed. Check that. It's encouraged. Actually, it's absolutely essential. All right, so let me offer a word of prayer. And then the next thing is you and your questions. And we're going to start writing them up here on the board. And yeah, then we're going to get to it. God in heaven, we now approach the investigation process with one tiny little mustard seed of faith that you want to reveal yourself, that you reward those who diligently seek you. So in earnest intellectual honesty, we now are going to present before you our thinking, our doubts, our questions and our issues. And I pray, God, that you would reveal yourself in all of this. And may we come to see you with more clarity today because we sought your face. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. So I think I primed the pump enough. What have been some of your questions about the Christian faith? Some of the sticking points, questions your friends have thrown out at you. What have they been? Yes, Jaden.
What is the devil's deal? Like we get that he's the bad guy, but like, why is he doing what he's doing? And
like motivations,
yeah,
almost.
Like his motivation, why we even fall in the first place? Like what is, and also like why does he keep going at this point?
Oh, that's good. Motivations. Did you say assistance? Persistence. That's the word.
Drive.
Persistence, drive. That's excellent. Yeah, great questions. What's that?
Does he know the outcome?
Yeah, these are questions, right? Like, is he convinced? Is he sincere? I guess maybe that's a question. Isn't that an interesting question to ask about Satan? Like, is he entirely cynical? Or is he sincere? Like, in other words, he has a rebellion program from the perspective of a good God, but from his perspective, it's the path. That's an interesting question about the devil. But I think that it all goes to your question, right, Jane? I think that kind of captures it. And it's really a good question. Someone really close to you, my wife, when she was a child, she, of course, got some of the introductory elementary lessons that there was a devil and what he was about in the world, temptation and lying and all that kind of stuff. And she reasoned if he could just stop driving at his end game of resisting God, well, she figured the entire problems of all the world will be solved. So she went to the backyard and started digging a hole. And she was going to get down into hell, and she was just going to convert him. And if she converted him, everything's fixed. Everything's fine. So, but, behind that naivete is this question, right? What's his deal? Like, why not change course if you understand how futile and how awful has been what you've done? Good question. What else?
I was asked something on that lines last night.
Which was?
The devil stopped what he was doing. Would he make it to heaven?
Oh, got it. Can the devil repent? Or maybe the angels too, right? Like we can just say that about the demons. And this, of course, assumes the Christian worldview is true. Hey, Ara. In that it purports to, it says there is a spiritual realm in which other spiritual agents exist. If they do exist and they're set on a path of rebellion against God, can they change? Can they turn? Why? And if not, why not? Good question. Nolan.
One of my good friends, she couldn't make it, but she wanted to ask, what is the possible links, evidence-wise, between the whole human evolution, Neanderthal?
Oh yeah.
And how does it correlate with the Bible?
So how can human evolution square with the Bible's creation story? Good?
Yeah.
Square with the Bible's story. That's an excellent question. And then we'll get from there into some of those science and faith issues that there's a lot of divergent thinking. Sean.
What happens to the people who join Satan after Satan's defeated? So in Revelations, Satan's defeated, and there's people who are cast aside from Christ's kingdom. What happens?
This is very specific Bible reference, and we'll have to get into it to just sort of investigate this scenario, right? Because we're assuming that those who join Satan after the millennial kingdom, after Jesus sets up his kingdom, right? That's who you're talking about. That special branch of people that join Satan's, do you want to call it second rebellion? Join Satan after. That's the most important part of this question, right? It's the after Christ returns. Sorry, this is what the first thing you're going to find out about Rick is I don't spell. Yeah, that's right. I've become to rely on it. And so, excellent question. You read through Revelation and you go, oh my gosh, this is an incredible book. And it's purported to tell me about the end of all things. And there's this scenario. If you don't know what Sean's referring to, it's right at the end. So, and this is one of the things we'll find out about Revelation. Should we read it in such a chronological way? But if you see it in chronological order, right after the moment when Jesus appears and the vision has him on a white horse, faithful and true, tattooed on his thigh, and a sword coming out of his mouth. After that, he establishes his kingdom, and then Satan's released, and then there's another put down, so to speak. So a good question, and one that Christians have a bunch of answers to, and I'll give you my best thinking on that. Great question, though. What else? Ariel.
So similar to the number 2, can devil, demons, repent, can people be saved after they die?
Oh, yeah. God, is there a second chance after death? Something like that?
Yeah.
Is there a second chance at salvation after death? Welcome back, James. Got the power cord? Excellent. We did your introduction. I told your whole story. Everything's good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We don't have any bad opinions about
No one thinks. There he is. Yeah, exactly. What else, Dwayne?
So when we have disagreements with our fellow believing brothers, how do we determine if it's a primary or a secondary issue?
Oh, well, that's good. So yeah, when we disagree in the church, how do we know when it's primary, secondary? Primary or secondary. There you go.
Okay,
Just so you know, in case you're panicking about this. James is our court stenographer. He's taken this all down, and he will not just take this down, but he'll also organize them. So that'll really help us. So, oh yeah, thank you. So of all the things that Christians believe, you could look at it like a target. And at the center of the target would be those primary things that define Christianity versus not Christianity. In other words, those things so essential that to not believe them means you're not a Christian anymore. That's the center of the target. Then there's a secondary set of issues that would be just outside the center, the bullseye, which you'd say, well, important, but there's some legitimate and faithful disagreement. In other words, you can be serious and agree to the core essentials, but those are secondary issues. If there's divergence of opinions, you can still be in the camp. You're still Christians. Then tertiary, imagine those outside of that, even less important, but still areas of squabbling or disagreement amongst Christians. That's what this question is asking. And thank you for that, Dwayne.
It's like stuff the Bible will give some answer to or some allusions to, but not a direct,
yes,
God sort of.
Exactly. And if you thought that, well, that's only our problem because we're so far removed from the apostolic community when they had all the answers and everything was a primary issue, that's not true. The early church had areas of disagreement. In fact, Paul lays down rules. Ironically, Paul lays down primary issue methods for how we should deal with one another when we have disagreeable or when we are involved in disagreements on secondary issues. So that's a funny thing, right? One of the ways we should deal with each other in these issues is a primary issue, right? Does this make sense? One of the things about how we're supposed to deal with each other when it comes to squabbling over secondary issues is a primary issue. In other words, do we have a reconciling spirit? Do we resolve conflict? Some of those are very, very explicit and at the center of who we are, because we are people of reconciliation. Now, funny thing, do you guys know about the book Mere Christianity? Raise your hand if you've heard of the book Mere Christianity. Okay. You all need to get this book at some point. Some people don't love Mere Christianity, but it is a beautiful, pretty short summary of primary Christian belief. And Lewis says that. He says it in his intro. He says, I'm not defending the whole target. This book is about defending the bullseye. I'm not defending your church's mode of baptism. I'm not defending your church's way of governing itself. I'm not defending, any secondary issue. I'm defending the bullseye. But then he makes this comment in the introduction, and he's right, and it's funny. But he says, one of the things that Christians disagree about is the nature of their disagreements. Right? See, that's kind of funny, right? Like, so one of the things we disagree about is how important are the things that we disagree about. So there's some people say, oh yeah, that issue's secondary. And another person says, no, that's absolutely critical. So that's one of the things we disagree about. So Dwayne, I don't know if we'll be able to land the plane totally, but I think we'll get some guidance on how to figure out what's at the center of the target, what's outside. Make sense? Okay.
What's the name of that book again?
Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Mere Christianity. And Lewis, if you're not on to him yet, he's my favorite Christian author, and he is just excellent. Hey, Jonathan, welcome. Yeah, we got a seat for you there. Yeah. Mere Christianity, and it's one of just a couple of different works that he writes defending basic Christian core ideas and principles. Another one is Miracles. And what's fascinating about Lewis is he writes in the 1940s and the 1950s, but everything he writes is like it's so unbelievably relevant for the situation right now. And why is that? Partly because he's writing in Europe, and Europe is in advance of America in some sense in terms of the problems for the church by about 50 years. So he writes to a post-Christian audience. He writes to Christians who are to an audience that is already like neck deep in post-Christian thinking, and we're there for sure. So that's why it's so relevant still. Great question. What's another one? Deborah.
Yeah, you calling me Deborah?
But just like your mom did.
Oh, you're terrible, right? Why do people think Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses
Are not Christians?
Yeah.
Or what did you say?
Are part of a cult or not?
Yeah, okay. Why consider Mormons and JWs cultists? Just the word, right? Them's fighting words, right? Just that word. Because when we use the word cult, we often mean fiery-eyed, crazy, what? Yeah, drinking the Kool-Aid, right? We think Jim Jones, right? So, we all know a Mormon, and we all know like a Jehovah's Witness, and they're those nice people that knock on your door, and you think these are not fire-eyed. Maybe they're wrong about some things, but we think they're not fiery-eyed, crazy Kool-Aid drinkers, kill all the women and children, secret, pacts with the devil. That's what we think, and we think cult. So when we get to this question, we'll try to redeem that word a little bit and maybe understand it in a way that takes it away from this crazy town thing.
I was going to say, some people call Christians cultists.
True, exactly.
Yeah, like technically the GMS can count.
Right.
Will we see I know we have a pastorate. Do we see a Dr. Rick or a rock star Rick in a different Earth or a different universe?
Oh, so this is a multiverse question. So is the multiverse real? Something like that? Is the multiverse real?
When did you stop?
Yeah, and this question is more than just for fun. like it is kind of interesting to just sort of noodle around on, oh, multiverse, and it makes for great movie plot lines, right? It makes for good book plot lines, but it's more serious than that when it comes to Christianity. Why? Because it's an escape hatch for fine-tuning. Let me explain that. Fine-tuning is powerful evidence for the existence of God. And why is that? Well, because fine-tuning is becoming inescapable scientifically. What we're finding is that to have a universe where complex life, like you and me, complex, intelligent life is possible, the number of factors that have to pile onto each other are so incredibly remote, like balancing an elephant on a toothpick, like this kind of level of precision that we're either the luckiest universe ever, or, and this is where the multiverse comes in very handy, or there's an infinite number of universes. And if there's an infinite number of universes, then we just got lucky. We're not a special universe, and therefore potentially the implication is we're specially made. The idea is the multiverse gets us out of that if we're so inclined. Does this make sense? If I'm so inclined to not see design in the universe, then I'm staring at design. I mean, it's staring me in the face. The precision of the law of gravity, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, the rate of expansion. You wouldn't believe. We'll get into it when we're here. You wouldn't believe how finely tuned these cosmological constants are. So design is just staring in the face. How do you get out of it? Well, imagine a guy who goes to Las Vegas and he puts $20 down on some long shot and he wins $6 million. And you go, well, yeah, got lucky. It happens. But what if he did that 30,000 times in a row? He just kept going to Vegas day after day, and every time he laid down $20 and he got $6 million in return. At some point, what would you say? At some point, you'd say, what? What would you say?
He's cheating.
He's cheating. Yeah, right? Yeah. You tell me you're lucky, but I'm still going to beat the crap out of you, right? Why? Because we know that such improbability is not possible by chance. Okay? So if the universe is like that, then how do you get out of it? You say, well, if there's an infinite number of Vegases and an infinite number of pulls on the slot machine, it's bound to happen at some point. Literally infinite. So that's how it helps you. That's how it helps you. That's a very important question.
This one piggybacks on it a little bit, but is heaven a physical realm, a spiritual realm, or an alternate dimension?
Oh, interesting.
What is heaven?
Yeah. Is heaven physical or spiritual? What was the other option you had there, Dwayne? Interdimensional.
To piggyback on the last question.
Yeah. In another universe, for example. James, you got all this?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm going to erase. Michael.
So, he's the creator of the universe. Why haven't we seen aliens?
Yeah, great question. Do you know that has a name?
No, I don't know. What is that?
It's called the Fermi paradox. So has anyone heard of the Fermi paradox? You have. What is it?
Basically, it's a theory, a theoretical barrier where other civilizations in the universe have come before us, but they hit this theoretical barrier where some extinction level event occurs where all of these civilizations get wiped out. And that is the Fermi paradox. And a lot of people wonder if we're behind it, meaning that we're coming up to that theoretical wall.
Yes. Yes. So the question is excellent. The question is brought on by the fact that we have no evidence of advanced alien intelligent life. Now we can get into the fact that maybe you think we do have evidence because UFOs are really big and in the news these days. So we can talk about that. But let's just go with the mainstream thinking on this, that we don't have little green men cracking out of spaceships going, hi, we're from another part of the universe, and we're revolving way ahead of you. So when you think about how quickly, on just basically the basic textbook biological timeline, okay, you've got humans that show up, our first lookalike show up about 100,000 years ago, maybe 40,000 years ago, and between then and now, which is a blink of universal time, right? Like a blink, we go from the Stone Age to the Space Age. So that's a tiny little window. So again, assuming all the same timelines and assuming the evolutionary paradigm that life just arises wherever conditions are favorable anywhere in the universe, the thinking is life is teeming out there in the universe. Why no alien life? Why have no intelligent little green men knocked on our door and said, hi, how you guys doing? Here's our space blaster. We'd like to introduce you to teleportation technology or whatever. We'd like to solve world hunger.
We'd like to enslave all of you.
Yeah, or we'd like to enslave all. Yeah, why do we imagine they're always benign, right? Like, well, we'd like to kill all of you. Yeah, why haven't they showed up? That's the Fermi paradox, and the way it's explained is that intelligent life basically is self-defeating. It eats itself. As soon as you get to a certain level of intelligence, you have an extinction level event, like Sean said. So it's a way of explaining why, because given the age of the universe, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have contact from alien life. And again, the Fermi paradox is a real problem for materialism, because materialism says that life should just be arising anywhere the conditions are right, and it should be advancing in the same pace and manner, basically, that it is here on Earth. And if it isn't, and you can say we're already a spacefaring species, why aren't there other spacefaring species? And if they're ahead of us even by 500 years, even by 1,000 years, they could be interstellar travelers. Why not? We can imagine it. So why aren't they here? And the fact that they're not here is a problem, which is why Fermi thought that one through. He said the reason why they're not here is because they kill themselves by their. Okay, so that's what is the Fermi? We already answered that, but why no aliens? Is that what the question was? Why no aliens here yet? And maybe some of you have a thought on the current UFO thought, because there's lots of people thinking about it now. What next? Why no aliens here yet? Dwayne.
After Cain was cast out, he supposedly starts a city. Who was in the city if it was just Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel?
Yeah. Who does he found a city with?
Who came live in Cain Town?
After Cain, he was
Yeah.
found.
Yep. That's a great question. And then another question, who does he fear? Right? That's, if you guys know the text, some of you aren't maybe aware of the story. In the story, Cain goes to found a city, and that's the first part of this question, like where cities require people, last time I looked. But he's afraid. He's afraid of people. And he only gets a wife after he leaves to the land of Nod. And that means he leaves Adam and Eve, which then there's a classic explanation for where Cain gets his wife, which is from one of his sisters, which may still be the best explanation. But it seems like he gets his wife in the land of Nod. And he has people that he fears. So that whole thing is a real interesting thing, and probably opens up possibilities for us. Michael.
Does supernatural exist? Can we see ghosts, vampires, werewolves, all the mythical creatures, but also spiritual stuff like ghosts, demons? If demons are real, wouldn't there be ghosts? Wouldn't there be vampires? Wouldn't there be things like
So do the classic monsters exist, or
classic
just
monsters, classic supernatural stuff? Like the demons, the spirits.
if demons exist?
Yeah.
What about ghosts?
Yeah, exactly.
Human souls trapped on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna follow.
If so, what are they? Yeah, great question.
I got one.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the spirit and the soul?
Okay, yeah. Some Christian denominations make a big deal out of, is there a difference between the spirit and the soul. So all Christians would believe that there must be some immaterial part of you because that part must survive death. James.
Sorry, question 10, your shorthand, I'm not clear on that.
Oh, so do the classic monsters exist?
Okay.
So I get where Dr. Jekyll, the whole thing. And then if demons exist, sorry, do ghosts exist? And if they do, what are they? Yeah, sorry. Appreciate you asking for clarification. Is there a difference between the spirit and the soul? Good question.
So when Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like lightning
Yeah.
from heaven, when would he have seen that?
Yeah, Jesus says, I saw Satan fall. When is that happening? I saw, clearly past tense.
Only somebody has written a book that covers some of that.
Yeah, right?
In stores today.
Hopefully,
In
the author
store.
used spell check.
Yeah. Let's hope it was spell checked. It's a great thing that I didn't actually handwrite the book. This is a great question, and I do go into it in the book. But when is he talking about this fall? Because this fall is incredibly important as an explanation for why the world is the way it is. It could be in the very recent past, because he says it in the disciples having gone around with his authority casting out demons. But it could be in the long-term past as well. Michael.
Is God, is the omnipotent, omnipresent, I forgot the third one.
Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient.
There you go. Or is he all three?
The three omnis.
The three omnis.
Omnipotent, omniscient, and present. But for everyone who doesn't maybe know what this means, omnipotent means can do all things, or all that is possible to do. Omniscient means knows all things, and omnipresent is all places present, is everywhere present. And that kind of is a starting definition for theism, really. That God is like this. Yeah. Yeah, Sean.
Has there ever been justified wars like the Crusades?
Oh, yeah. Is war ever justified? And specifically, the Crusades. But we can expand that too to ask other wars. Like, for example, like the first Gulf War or something like that. Like, can any war be justified? But specifically, these wars are very important. Yeah, because these ones are in some sense unique in that, unlike like the Gulf War or even World War I or even World War II, were done in the name of Jesus. What's that? Sure. Can we add that as a separate question?
Okay.
So what about the Inquisitions? What's the question? Was it justified? Was the Inquisition? Well, not a war, but Inquisition.
Depending who you were, maybe you would disagree.
Definitely felt like I was fighting. So
Well, and I ain't saying there wasn't killing, okay? There was killing going on. There's all kinds of killing. There's war killing, and there's Inquisition killing. And these are different killings. Yeah, the Inquisition will help understand that better, and because it has blown up in the public consciousness as something that probably doesn't represent reality in almost any way. Some things are probably well understood, but other things are not, like its size, scope, who was in charge of it, how many people died, all that stuff. No one understands. Very few people understand it. That part of it. Yeah.
What is actually prayer? Is it a genie in a bottle?
What is prayer?
Yeah. What is prayer?
Yeah. What is prayer? So, what is prayer? Let's vending machine. That's kind of what you're saying, right? Yep. Vending machine or what? Like Ask and you shall receive, Jesus said. So maybe it is just a vending machine. Ask and you shall receive. Sounds like it. We'll get into that. That's a great question. All right, James, you have all this?
Yes, sir.
How come you can erase it? Yeah, and this is my question. How come? So Jesus is ascending and leaving and stuff. It isn't. At least in, I guess it depends what translation you're reading. It seems implied that he will return within.
Oh, that's really a great question.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Sooner than 2,000 years. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
that's an excellent question. 17. Jesus seems to suggest he's coming back within their lifetime. Seems to suggest he's coming back
I didn't know we were adding math into this.
in their lifetimes.
Jesus seems squared.
Now it's 4. Now it's
That fixed it.
Just to the power of 4s.
Jesus seemed to suggest he's coming back in their lifetimes. Did he get it wrong? Must have got it wrong. That's a good question.
Well, and then the some there again. This might depend on what translation you're reading, but the disciples also seem to think that it's sooner rather than later.
If you think about the letters, yeah, the letters seem to imply that. Yeah, Michael.
The world is actually going to end. Is it 1999, 2012, Skynet?
Listen,
Y2K.
Jesus said he didn't know. I'm gonna not.
When does the Bible say the world will end? Great question, because the Bible does kind of talk about the future, and about Jesus talked about it quite a bit. One of the reasons why the Bible has a focus on the end of all things is because Jesus had a focus on the end of all things. So he famously and fantastically put himself as the sole arbiter of the end of time. It was incredible. The judge of all. We don't wonder when we hear those kind of comments why they were intimidated by him and eventually strung him up. Great question. What else? Dwayne.
Satan is given dominion over the earth. What are the implications of that?
Okay.
Is it like a power up?
I'm not sure.
And does that limit God's ability to interact because of it?
Like you got the keys to the car, to the Bermuda Triangle. You don't get the Pacific Ocean.
It's a custody arrangement. They're in custody court.
Yeah, so Satan is said to have dominion of the earth. What does that imply? Does that limit God? These are all really great questions, and maybe just hearing Dwayne even suggest that might seem heretical to you, because it's like, isn't it God's earth? God's sovereign and in control, we say. So in what way does Satan have dominion? That's a really, really important question. And to ask it just opens up just all sorts of streams of insight into what the Bible says that helps us make sense of the world and keeps us away from nonsensical ways of understanding the world, but they appear pious. Like if we continue to lean into the idea that this isn't a fact, then we will have to almost deny the world the way it is, because we're just we feel like maybe it's just heretical to even suggest it. Michael, question.
Do you have free will? Didn't God say he's the Alpha and Omega? You can see like the omnipotent.
Do we have free will if God is omniscient? Because that get to that omni part.
Yeah.
If God is omniscient, like that's a great question. If God knows the future, then he knows what you're going to do. So if he knows what you're going to do, are you free to do it? Right? How can you be free if the future is exhaustively known? Yeah.
I would add to that this idea of predestination that some Christians hold.
Yeah. So what's the question?
What is
Well, yeah,
predestination?
is predestination real? Are we all predestined to be followers of Christ or
Are we predestined to wherever we are?
To
like-
believe or not believe,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Which I believe, what is it? Who holds that?
Calvinists.
Yes, Calvinists.
Yeah, great question. And it does get into lots of interesting Bible material that suggests on both sides of this thing that people are free and that God is nevertheless sovereign. That is to say, he's superintendent over history. And he also knows the future, which is what this is about. Yeah, Jaden.
What's the deal with the Nephilim?
Oh, that's good.
English major saying words I don't know.
Jaden, tell us what the Nephilim are.
I don't know actually too much about them. The only thing that I really know.
That's why I asked the question.
That's why I had the question, Dad. The only thing that I really know is that at some point the quote unquote sons of God and quote unquote daughters of man get together.
Yes.
And make some babies.
Yes, that's Genesis chapter 6. And yeah, very, very fascinating, weird part of scripture. You wouldn't believe how interested the early church was about that question, though. Very interested. Yes, that will absolutely. Now, just by the way, the Nephilim were.
We actually have a few here to answer.
Yeah, that's right. Here they are. By the way, anybody watching the David series on Prime Video? 1, 2, 3, 4. They have the Nephilim in there. And there's an episode that actually kind of just explores this creatively. It actually delves into the background of it and how it's connected to, did everyone know Goliath is connected to the Nephilim? What's that? Okay, I want to hear it. Just 1 second. So, yeah, Genesis 6, and I think we captured that. So that everyone understands where Jaden's coming from on that. Marlon, go. Oh, were all the Nephilim destroyed?
Do they walk among us?
Hey, I know a guy at work, Peyton. He's like 7 foot tall, man. I would believe it.
Were they all destroyed in the flood? Great question. Goliath? Yeah, for example, yeah. Yeah, excellent. Let's put that in the question. Goliath.
You got there eventually.
There we go.
Goyle laugh at
Go,
first.
Niles.
Goliath.
That'd be funny. And David's about to fly and he goes, "Excuse me, actually, for posterity, can you spell your name, please?"
Yeah.
Goila. That's Goyle.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Or are you the last in your species? Because I don't want to be in charge of your extinction.
What a horrible.
To be blamed for the
I'm not sure how I got more questions.
Well, fire away.
Number wise.
Oh, number wise. Oh,
He went back to
18, 19. Did I get my numbering
He
wrong?
went back to 8 when we erased the first.
Oh, I did. Okay, there's 2 number 8s, but James got it all clear. Nice.
James is working.
James is like love. He covereth over a multitude of sins.
Can we? Are we going to be able to get a copy?
Absolutely. Yep. So, Deb,
Is there really a hell?
is hell real? That's a great question. What was that?
He said it's California.
Oh, California. Well,
And to Los Angeles, James.
there it is. Hey.
Jesus.
Yeah. Is hell real? Great question. And why? I mean, just if we explore the doctrine, right? It's a hard idea. So, is it real? Did Jesus teach about it? What did he teach about it? Is there a way to maybe find ourselves around it? Some Christians are certainly interested in doing that. Great question. Sean, and then Nolan.
What would it, this is a bit heretical, but what would it look like if Satan won, and would he be satisfied?
Should that be followed up when he was tempting Jesus? If he won?
Yeah, which battle? Are you talking about the first time he fell, or like when he was tempting Jesus?
Right, any of them, man. Let's figure it out.
First and second time.
Yeah, okay. So we've got both times in a garden, ironically. Think about that, right? When his most fierce pitched struggles happened, were both in a garden, and both with the Son of God. Right? Adam, the first Son of God, and Jesus, called the second Adam. So yeah, great question, Sean. What would have happened if he had won in either garden? Well, we know he won in the first. He won in the first garden. Great question. There was a second part to that. What would have happened if he had won?
Would he be satisfied?
Would he be satisfied?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm reading a book now called about Bonhoeffer, who, if you don't know, he's a pastor in Nazi Germany during the Hitler thing, and you know, that whole Hitler thing, and it's. Oh, I didn't see it. Is it good?
It's good.
Okay.
It's a slow burn, but it's good.
So anyhow, it brings to mind the same thing. If Hitler, if he had won, you know, what would he have been satisfied? You know, kills all the Jews. They're all dead now. What's the next thing? You know, it's like it seemed to those people who were living in it that he would have had to find some new terrifying hill to climb, because he was just not ever satisfied. Yeah. It's like he had no real ideology. His ideology was his own power. He had actually people around him, by the way, who were ideological. Like they had an ideology that they were pursuing, and it seemed to many that he was just pursuing a cult of self. It was him that he was beholden to. He was what he was pursuing.
They should have just let him in art school, you know?
Yeah, right? Marlon.
When Jesus descended into hell, was it on the Sabbath or was it after?
Oh, yeah. So when did Jesus descend into hell?
And for a follow-up, well, the other part of that, isn't day measured evening and morning?
Yes, the Jewish reckoning of a day is from evening to evening. Yes. But now also, any part of a day for the Jews was considered a day.
Right.
And that actually gets to a question no one's asking, but some people wonder why 3 days and 3 nights. And everyone goes, wait a minute, I'm doing the math. Friday night crucified, Sunday morning raised from the dead. That's not 3 days and 3 nights. Marlon's going, not my question. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, one piece of a day measures the whole day.
Yes. Yep. As they would reckon a 24-hour span as evening to evening. But if they said the word day, it often was any part of the day.
Right. So
Yeah.
if he rose in the evening, he wouldn't be on the Sabbath. He would still be within the law before he rescinded the law.
Oh, interesting. So what part of the law do you think would have been fulfilled by him not rising on Sunday?
It would have been Sunday because it would have been the evening.
Oh, I see. Yes, right.
So it gave him 8 hours to get the keys.
8 hours to get the keys to hell, to unlock it for the prison, the people in prison. Yeah.
The keys and to teach.
There is a whole, right.
Talk
And
about a heist movie. Jesus, you have 8 hours. You have to get the keys to the house.
there is an entire scenario that you're painting, Marlon, that is, it's got some of its basis in 2 things. One is the early creeds. So the church said, we believe in Jesus Christ, who, Son of God, descended into hell. That's actually in one of the creeds. You say, well, where do we get that from? Well, that it's based on one specific reference in 1 Peter, where Jesus is said to have gone to the spirits in prison and preached to the spirits in prison. So that this question opens up the conversation. Oh, what does that mean? Is this scenario, like talking about the target, is this a primary belief that is really a key part of the redemption story, that he must have gone into hell to preach to spirits in prison? But if he did, when did that happen? You're saying Sunday, Saturday. And did it happen? Did it have to happen? Does he have to go into hell?
It also mentions in Revelation that he has the keys.
Yes, it does. Yes,
What was that piece? It says in Revelation what?
It says in Revelation that he has the keys. The keys to Hades.
And death.
Yes.
In this heist movie, I want Hades played by the guy who played Hades in Hercules.
Oh, nice.
Just
Okay.
so we're clear.
Yeah. Very good. Nolan.
In today's time, I guess, can you see and or interact with angels / demons?
Oh, good question.
I guess evidence of that.
Like, are angels still doing stuff, man? Or did they just leave?
Would you follow that with like the what do you call those folks that talk to spirits and psychics?
Is it 27? Is it 27?
Oh, that's based on your. It's way off from 27, but 27 is the next.
Good, good. Okay, good. All right. So, thank you for your help, everybody. Okay, so the question is, are angels still around? Are they doing stuff?
Can we today see
Interacting? Can we see them? Visible ever? Right? Is that it? Yeah, good question. They seem to be showing up on every other page in the Bible. And it's really important for us to remember that.
They were terrifying.
With that, but when it comes to the Bible's story, it's giving us these punctuated moments of revelation. And when we see it in the total scope, we realize that that's exactly what it is, like punctuated activity of both God and his agents, for example, angels, dispersed in between long ages of what you and I would consider normal life. So the Bible gives us a sense that it's happening every day, just angels are showing up. But that's not the case. If you take the Bible story and then realize, oh, that's a punctuated moment of intervention from the spiritual realm in between long spans of what you and I would consider normal life. So the Bible story is taking place in a normal time, more normal than you're led to believe because of its incredible descriptions of angelic interventions and miracles and other things. So then that then helps us to say, okay, wait a minute. Well, if these are punctuated, sporadic, rare things, can we still imagine that they happen at the same frequency today? And I think the answer is yes. But we'll see if there's any evidence for that. Great question, though. What else? Ariel.
This is gonna be a joke. Do all dogs go to heaven? But really, do animals animals have an afterlife, right?
Yeah, that's a great
Reading,
question.
The problem of pain by
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis, and he talks about that because apparently an argument he has come across is people arguing about animals experiencing pain, and therefore are animals saved or in the afterlife whatsoever.
Yep.
And he makes this argument that, or he has a theory, I suppose.
That's well said. He has a theory.
He calls it that in the
Mhm.
movie. I have a theory that perhaps animals, if we are saved through our master, perhaps they are saved through their masters, which is us.
Yes.
Like through the goodness of their own masters.
Yes. That's a good summary of it.
That's actually why I asked the question, spirit and soul.
Oh, okay. Be given like maybe animals, if they don't have a spirit or a soul or one or the other. Yeah. That's a good question. Did you know that we have the exact same designation when we're created as the animals? So the animals are called the nephesh, which means they are a living soul. They're described as living souls. And then when God makes Adam in Genesis 2, it says the exact same phrase for him. And Adam became a nephesh, a living soul. So the case that the Bible has that animals have souls is actually fairly convincing. The question that's open is their soulish life of the same quality as ours? And therefore, does it imply an eternal that they're eternal, that they have an afterlife? And that is an open question, but let's plumb the depths of it and see what we can figure out.
Well, if they do, a lot of goldfish flush down the toilet.
Yeah, a lot of goldfish got a lot of questions. I got questions. Yeah.
Oh, I guess that then you have to also go into the tiers
Of animal life.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, Genesis would kind of support that because there's different kinds of animals, and the nephesh are not the first created. They're the second created, then humans. So yeah, no.
That leads into a classic: dinosaurs and dragons.
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, are dinosaurs dragons?
No.
Are dragons?
Dinosaurs themselves and dragons, how do they correlate at all?
Do they exist?
Is there a biblical reference?
Giant fish, I guess, too. Leviathan.
Yeah, Job chapter 38 through 40 describes two incredible creatures. One is Behemoth and the other is Leviathan. And they're sometimes said to seem to be descriptions of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs.
You correcting it just makes it worse.
Yeah. Now that looks like an F.
I know, dinosaurs.
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 Dinosaurs. Okay, so back to Job. In the Bible, there's this description of two animals. And it's in the mix of God describing a bunch of other animals. War horses, ostriches, several other animals that you and I are completely familiar with. And God is using the animals to make an illustration. He's illustrating point for Job. The point generally is God's incredible power and sovereignty over all of nature and his untouchableness. And he begins to describe two creatures that have no analog, Behemoth and Leviathan. And if we get into it, I think we'll find that we can maybe locate what those animals are, but they do seem to describe just terrifying creatures. One seems to be a water-going dinosaur. If we want, that's our lingo. It's called Leviathan. And the other seems to be a land-going dinosaur, and that's Behemoth. And if you look in the footnotes, most Bibles will say the Behemoth is a hippopotamus, and that the Leviathan is a what? A crocodile. Yeah. Marlon.
Big crocodile. The hippopotamus, not the hippopotamus, the rhinos are actually unicorns.
Oh, yeah. Some have said that there's a connection there. Yes.
The translation is.
Oh, okay. No, that's different. There is the King James version. James, go ahead.
It was also saying that that's unique to the KJV.
Uniquely, the KJV rendered a certain animal as a unicorn, but I think that it's probably better rendered something else. But that we can get into that a little bit. The KJV had, just some translation issues.
Earlier manuscripts corrected that.
Yes. Dwayne.
Was the level of animal sacrifice, especially in the temples, seemed very gratuitous. I mean, especially during Passover, the high holidays, right? So was that man taking it too far, or was God's intention to literally thousands of animals being sacrificed in a week type of thing?
Great question. Seems really harsh for us. You got all this butchery, and in the name of God, and we're going to kill all these animals. There's a great answer to this, and we'll get into it.
I was going to say, I do it today for chicken nuggets, so.
Yeah.
If chicken nuggets are shaped like dinosaurs, you can ask for dino sauce on the side.
That's right. Some dino sauce. Exactly. Yeah, so it seems gratuitous. I don't know if there's another better word. That's a really good word. You said excessive, over the top.
Was that God's intent, or
did people
go too far? I feel like we do that.
That does seem to be the trend, doesn't it?
I'm even just thinking of Peter when Jesus is like, "Hey, you're gonna do this," or maybe it was the washing of feet. Peter.
Yes.
Like, oh, I can't do that, guy.
Yeah.
He's like, "You gonna do it?" He's like, "Then I'll wash your whole body." Guys.
Yeah.
Like, just the extreme.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Just swinging from one side to the other. Exactly.
So what is it about the blood itself in the sacrifices? They are called.
Yeah, it is. And then Hebrews says the life is in the blood. I guess it's a subset of question 30. The life is in the blood. So what is it about the blood, right? That probably is the answer to the question. Why is blood special? Why? Because blood's being spattered everywhere. You have to put blood on the big toenail of the priest. You have to put the blood on the Passover across the door and down the post. By the way, what does that make? Blood, blood. Why special? Why blood?
And if they come across blood in other circumstances, they're ritually unclean.
I literally
Do a
For
ritual
days.
across blood.
I was
For
like, yeah,
days.
it's the girls' bleed, all right.
Yes.
Seems contradictory.
Well, if you come across a dead body,
Sure.
yeah.
That was a living, fresh blood. And the dead blood is not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So-
even a woman's menstrual cycle.
Yep. That's there's a Q&A on the website about that. Yeah. Someone asked why there's purification. Women baby girls have a 30-day purification time frame, whereas boys have like a 10-day or something like that. What's going on there? No one understands that one. But there are some theories. We'll talk about that. Michael.
So, well, Genesis 2 says, now the earth was formless, empty, and darkness all over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit God was hovering more over the waters. Is God the beginning, or was there something that God gave into that the universe was there?
Oh, got
it. Was there a beginning before the beginning?
Oh, that's a great question.
I mean, because people, I hear a lot of people, oh, God came in, he saw something, and he made something there, so there was something there. He didn't start from the beginning. That's what people are saying.
That's what the peeps are saying.
Yeah, that's what.
Do you know who makes a lot of that? Michael, this is super relevant for you. Do you know who makes a lot of what you're just suggesting? The Mormons. And why does anyone know? Okay. Think about it. I don't know what you know about Mormon doctrine or theology, but if you know anything about the Mormon doctrine of eternal regress, why would it be important for the Mormons to make much of the idea that there was something before God?
Because God was a man at one point.
Yes. And so who we consider the Father is there's something before him. So it's important for the Mormon doctrine to be consistent that there's always something that precedes God. And so the idea of creation out of nothing is a Christian idea that the Mormons reject. What's that? But that's not Mormonism.
Right. But it is the mother of.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's God has something before him, a mother that births God.
Which says the Trinity was always.
Right. Just to finish this question, was there a beginning before the beginning?
Correct.
It looks like there's some pre-existent stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And God just say, oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some cool things with this stuff I just discovered that was here before me.
Yeah, and that's how they're saying, well, couldn't God just like the Zeus's and the
Right.
Mother Nature
Right. And again, that all plays beautifully, not just with paganism, but that way of thinking plays with Mormonism very strongly. We're going to find there's a decisive answer to that establishes that Yahweh is a completely different order of God. But yeah, it's an intriguing question. Sean.
15 minutes, right?
Okay.
Are religions, both past and present, other religions?
Well, this is good. This is
demons
good.
in disguise?
Are other religions, did you say demons?
Yeah.
Are other religions?
So like the Norse pantheon, was that just demons manipulating people?
Like, for example, yeah, Norse mythology, even we could go to all of them, Babylonian. Are these references to actual beings rather than just sort of figments? They're actual beings manifesting, and then they're creating a religious system around themselves. I think if it's not, just to sort of spoil it, but the Bible's answer to that would be an unequivocal yes. Are other religions demons in disguise? Norse, Babylonian, all pagan. Yeah, but it's an interesting question because you read the prophets and it seems like they are so denigrating idolatry that's like, these are nothing. Your idols are a nothing burger. Like how many times do you read, I don't know if you have read any of the prophets, but you read Jeremiah, Isaiah, your idols are nothing. There's only one real true God, only Yahweh exists. And so you get that sense in some of the prophetic writings that all these other religious gods are nothing at all. Just make believe. But I think that, Sean, you're onto something, that's too simple of a view, both in the Old Testament for sure, and also in the New. That yes, the Bible writers and the prophets are interested in denigrating the way we deify a block of wood, and just how they're definitely coming against this superstitiousness of that. But are they completely disagreeing with the idea that there is a power behind that idol, actual power, not a figment? And the answer is yes. Yep. And Michael Heiser is just an incredible Bible scholar. He has tons of YouTube videos on this. He died just last year, but he goes into great depth on this stuff, and great stuff if you ever want to just go deep on this.
You want to bake your noodle.
What?
You want to bake your noodle.
Yeah. Michael.
Why Gospel of Thomas, Mary Magdalene, Judas, why are they not included in the Bible?
God, that's great. Why are and I'm going to summarize them according to their name, and I'll explain it. Why are the Gnostic Gospels not in the Bible? Okay, so Gnostic. So in the early century of the Christian period, so in the late first century and picking up a lot of steam in the second century, was a group of Christians called the Gnostics. Gnostics is where we get our word for knowledge. Gnosis is the Greek word for knowledge, and our word knowledge. Are you wondering why there's a bunch of English words with KN at the front and you don't say the K? That all comes from Greek. So Gnostics that's pronounced Gnostic, and they were all about secret special knowledge, and that the inner revelation mattered, and only a special spiritual elite could get that, and you only got the truth when you looked inside and internally. This is the Gnostics. And so they rejected objective revelation, and they rejected all sorts of things. And so the question is, they purport to have actual stories of Jesus, like Gospels, that would compete with or complement Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. So why don't we use those Gospels as reliable renditions of Jesus' life? That's the question. And it's a really good question. But when we answer this question, it's going to blow your mind as to how much more confidence you will have in the biblical Gospels after you examine these Gospels. What would be the word on the street about the New Testament? It would be something like what? What if you don't believe in the New Testament story? Why? Why wouldn't you believe it? What's the average skeptic going to say? Why won't they accept it? They'll say something like what? That what? Well, if he came back from the dead, then you'd believe it, wouldn't you? I'm asking for someone who doesn't believe it. Like, why not? What do they assume about the Bible? It's been altered. Just a bunch of guys that came up with a story. People lied. What's that? Mistranslated. What's another thing that they'll say? Manipulated. Full of errors. Also, legend. Right? That's a big thing. Like, you'd say, but you'd counter this and you say, it says right here, rose from the dead, claimed to the Son of God. What would they say about that? They'd say, that happened way late. That's what they would say, right? So the writing of it happened far too late. There's not enough, too much time in between the time of writing and the actual events. It was altered and adjusted because it had legendary elements creeped in over a long period of time. What's fascinating is every one of those criticisms that your skeptical neighbor has about the Bible are true of these texts. Every one of them. But not true of the biblical Gospels. And that's what we'll find out. And it's fascinating. The story of this, as opposed to and comparison to the biblical Gospels, is just incredible. Just incredible. Someone, by the way, online, if you're interested in kind of doing a deep dive on this, and he's becoming very famous recently, is Wes Huff. Young Canadian apologist. Had to throw that in there.
That get onto your
Had to throw that in there. And anyhow, so he yeah, his specialty is the texts of early Christianity and the classical period. And wow, does he do great work on just diving into what are the Gnostic Gospels, when were they written, how reliable are they as witnesses to the historic Jesus, and how do they compare with the biblical Gospels? Fascinating stuff. And we'll just scratch the surface with that, and it's a lot of fun. This guy, or just this question of the Gnostic Gospels? Oh yeah, got it. Because once a lot of people are like that. You mean there are other Gospels? Like, how many of you heard there are other Gospels before today? Most of you? Okay, so did that blow you away the first time you heard about that?
Yeah.
I didn't know there were other Gospels for a long time.
Well, the one I get was it's the old movie Stigmata.
Yes.
Stigmata was the one that got me. It's like, there's a Gospel of Thomas? Like,
What is the Gospel of Thomas? And then what really brought it to the public consciousness was the Da Vinci Code. Now, a lot of you in this room are too young for this. Does anyone remember the Da Vinci Code, famous Dan Brown books? Okay, so that put forward the Gnostic Gospels as legit competitors to the biblical Gospels, and then it's like, well, it's a conspiracy now. Oh my goodness, we have a competing story of Jesus, and then why do we have these biblical Gospels, and what were these put down intentionally? It's a conspiracy, and it just made for great book sales, but not a shred of it did not hold, critically speaking. But we're gonna find all that out, and you're gonna be so smart after this conversation. We're almost done. Any other questions? And by the way, we won't turn the tap off. You can bring some more questions, but this will help us organize and get started next week. Sean, did you have something? Oh, sorry. I thought you were. What else? That's it. We have plumbed the depth. We are at scraping the bottom of the barrel of your doubts, concerns, thorny issues. You've never come across a Bible verse that you said, that's troubling to me. No, it's good. Good to know.
To a point where it's like we don't know what we don't know. You know.
This is true. This is true. This is true. This is great, Dwayne.
It's hard to put it into a question, but it feels like you look at the story of Moses and the story of David, and it seemed like God was a lot harsher with Moses. Like, he cannot enter the promised land. But it seemed like David literally got away with murder.
Literally got away with murder.
What is the difference in the relationship with God?
I don't know if he got away with murder.
I mean, his son did die.
His son died while also fighting him for the rest of his life, essentially. It's not like he had a charmed life after he fucked up. So, hold on, where's my life retarded?
Can we delete that? It's still a good question, and maybe we could expand it a little bit, because it seems like there's harshness in the Old Testament generally versus maybe not David, but also the New Testament. There seems like there might be a different operating system that God's on. It seems like to many people in the Old Testament.
Different rules for different biblical characters.
Yeah.
For a more general question.
Old Testament versus New Testament and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's a good question.
Regarding David.
Yeah.
Why did Satan tell him to do a census, and why was that like such an awful thing?
Yeah, why was that such a horror? I mean,
and then because Israel had to pay the price, and you got to choose.
There's two questions there, and they're both good.
Okay.
One is, why is the census evil? And the second is, why are the people to pay for the sin of the census?
Well, I understand that.
Oh, you do?
David's the king, and he's the one that brought it upon him by doing the census. But why is the census?
Okay, well, but I feel like there's another question that's still a hard question. I'm fine to not answer it because it's a hard question. But think about it. Okay, think about it. If just assume it's a sin. Okay, assume that part's answered. Oh, it's a sin to count your people. I don't know why, but now we've got that established. Now, in punishment for the sin, 70,000 people who didn't do the sin are going to die. They did. It's a harder question, but a good one and totally related to that. Why was the census wrong? And then why do the people pay? Your son and I were talking about that on Sunday because it actually made the list of questions but didn't get to the top by the time we were done. And it was this second part of that was you could have voted that one up, but it was a good question. Michael, you've got a question.
Jesus is supposed to basically
Be cool. Sorry.
not only that, but fulfill the prophecy and
Yeah.
renew the covenant, or not renew, but have the new covenant of the world. Why do the Mormons still believe that there's a living prophet?
Good question. So one of the things that distinguishes Mormonism it'll dovetail nicely with the earlier question. One of the things that distinguishes Mormonism from biblical Christianity is we're almost done.
We
So
don't have the time to erase those numbers.
it's way too much time. Okay, so one of the things that distinguishes them is this commitment to the living prophet. By the way, that there is some similarity between that and the Catholic system, right? The Catholic system, basically, if it's not too, I'm going to put this out there on the internet forever, but I think it's true that Mormonism is like Protestant Catholicism in this sense, that it believes in the living prophet and that a council that gets to add to and adjudicate revelation. I think that's fair. Would you say that's fair? I think that's fair. Because that's what the Mormon Council of 12 does. They adjudicate and add to revelation. That's what Joseph Smith did. Joseph Smith brings another testament, and they continue in the stream of belief that prophets are continually adding to the stream of God's revelation. And your question, Michael, is why do they believe that? And how does that jive? Why don't Christians have prophets? Biblical Christians have a cache of prophets that could add to, adjudicate, and or adjust prior revelation. James. Okay, well, that's the last question. It's a good one. Why do Mormons have living prophets? That, by the way, is one of the first questions that they ask, right, at the doorstep. If they, hi, I'm your Mormon neighbor. And as soon as you say, oh, we're Christians, they say, oh, cool, well, so are we. That's the first thing that they'll say. And then the next thing is, do you believe in prophecy, the gift of prophecy? And 90% of Christians do. So say, yep. And then that's it. That's the end. Well, do you believe that prophecy is a gift alive today, that prophets are, and you say, yep. You say, well, guess what? God gave a guy named Joseph Smith the gift of prophecy, and he had another revelation. And that's how they begin to talk about Mormonism. And so it's to Michael's question. Oh, right. I do believe in the gift of prophecy, and I do believe it's still for today, but I don't believe that people are adding to the Bible. Why not? That's the question. And it's a really good one. Marlon.
I was actually asked to go to church with my aunt.
A Mormon, I assume?
When I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And I went for about 5 weeks.
Yep.
And I was asked not to come back.
Because you were a rabble rouser, Marlon?
Yeah.
You asked too many questions?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's exactly what they told me.
Nice. Well, we're going to do that today. Dwayne, last word.
One more question is because it's timely. So how exactly does the powers of the Pope line up to?
Oh, it's very timely. Does everyone know we have conclave? Everyone's got that, right? The Pope died, and now we're in conclave, which is the way they select a new Pope. So, Dwayne, your question is?
The authority that the Pope claims or the Church assigns to the Pope.
Yes.
Is there any root in biblically, or is this just church tradition that is just?
Is there a good reason for papal authority? Let's put it like that. Which is, another way of saying this question is Protestantism wrong? Right? right? Because if there is a good reason for papal authority, then there's no good reason to leave. We should all be Catholics. Yep. That's a great question. All right, let's end there. That was so great. Oh, Sean's got one more, or no? Yeah, go ahead.
So it kind of ties into one of the previous questions
Mhm.
regarding finding redemption in the afterlife.
Yeah.
What happened to Judas after he died?
Hmm.
And is there any way for him to be redeemed?
You should add all those other big bad ones.
Big bad. You know those guys.
Like
big
the- like
bads.
the-
Like the dinosaurs.
Yeah, right.
Can the
Well-
dinosaurs be saved?
Yeah. That's a great
I
question.
actually need to know that.
And if you believe and have read Dante's Inferno, Judas is in the seventh circle of hell, being chewed on by Satan as we speak. That's not in the Bible, just so we know. But that is in Dante's Inferno. All right, great questions, all of you. Great questions, and I guess we got none from the live stream, but all open for next week. If you have some of that, we'll be back here next week, Monday, 6:30 to 8, and we'll just attack this thing for the next 4 weeks. Sound fun?
Yes.
We're gonna have a great time with this. All right, God, we just close committing our investigation to you, and ask that you would illuminate us, because we can't know anything about you unless you reveal it. So reveal it to us, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, it's not too late to invite a friend if you got a friend with all the same questions.